The Coach Curl podcast is brought to you by Think and Grow Business, the home of the Think and Grow Business Mastermind. If you're serious about growing your business, get serious and join a mastermind group today. Find out more at thinkandgrowbusiness.com.au.
Hey there and welcome to the Coach Curl podcast. Today I'm sharing why my Siri is male. You don't want to miss this one.
Way to go, guys. Way to go. Keep it going. Good job, guys. All right, Paul. I see you. Finish on. Coach Curl. Great job, guys.
Coach Curl, we love you!
Hey there and welcome. It's episode 172 of the Coach Curl podcast, and today I'm sharing something that's quite a funny incident that happened to me at a recent business workshop that I held. Now, I'm sure I'm not the only one, but my Siri on my iPhone seems to have a mind of its own. Now, it seems to pop up when I least expect it, and sometimes the words that I've just said may resemble something may resemble, "Hey Siri," but there are other times when there's just no resemblance. Siri just pops up. Now, if I was a big believer in conspiracy theories, I'm probably would say that that's just Apple listening in, I guess. But I'm not a big subscriber to conspiracy theories. So I'm facilitating this workshop, and Siri comes on, and everyone in the workshop, and they laugh, and we carry on. Now, not more than 5 minutes later, it happens again. Siri pops up, and this time there wasn't as much laughter. In fact, the laughter was replaced by a question. And now, the group that I had at that particular time were females. I had all females in this particular workshop. And the question was, "What, Tony, your Siri is male?" was the statement. Now, I guess part of the world that we live in, there is an expectation that Siri sounds like whatever. Alexa sounds like Alexa. My Google sounds like my Google. And while this artificial intelligence will tell us that they're gender neutral or that they don't have a gender, the reality is that it's a female voice. For the vast majority of what our perception and expectations are, our artificial intelligence voice-activated apps are designed around the female voice. It's a norm. It's an expectation. But one of the reasons I would imagine, I'd imagine that there's probably some deep-seated psychology that's been invoked here in relation to the female voice being a more nurturing, a more caring, more predisposed to looking after us. In fact, research continues to show us that babies, even from birth, babies are more tuned in or attentive to a female voice, a woman's voice. So they respond to a female's voice. So the female voice is often believed to be a more nurturing, a more caring sort of a voice. So I would like to think that I'm probably guessing that the female voice was chosen because of that deep-seated psychology that I guess that sits within each and every one of us. But in 2019, that changed with a report from the UN. Now, the problem, according to the report, and I'm going to quote from bits from an article in relation to this report. The problem, according to a new report released in 2019, it was by a company called UNESCO, stems from a lack of diversity within the industry that is reinforcing problematic gender stereotypes. Nothing about nurturing, nothing about the female voice being more attentive. It's all about a lack of diversity within the industry that's reinforcing problematic gender stereotypes. Obedient and obliging machines that pretend to be a woman are entering our homes, our cars, our offices. The Director for Gender Equality on UNESCO, which is part of the United Nations, said in a statement, "The world needs to pay much more closer attention to how, when, and whether AI technologies are gendered, and crucially, who is gendering them." One particular worrying reflection of this is the deflecting, lackluster and apologetic responses that these assistants give to insults. Right? So the early days of Siri especially, there was all this sorts of, fun stuff happening, I guess. Some people would see it as fun stuff. People asking questions and, Siri or AI just laughing it off or, in some reports she's described as quite flirtatious. So while fundamentally some of the major players have changed the responses since the adaptation of Siri because of that, I'd imagine there was some form of self-control, self-regulation. Now, the report goes on to suggest that technology remains gender-biased, arguing that the problem starts with engineering teams that are staffed overwhelmingly by men. I don't know what sort of picture that paints for you, but I'm sort of visualising all these teams of men saying, yeah, let's make the voice female. Siri's female and the civility expressed by so many other digital assistants projected as young women provides a powerful illusion. Baked into their humanised personalities, though, are generations of problematic perceptions of women. These assistants are putting a stamp on society as they become common in homes across the world and can influence interactions with real women, the report warns. And the report puts it, the more that culture teaches people to equate women with assistants, the more real women will be seen as assistants and penalised for not being assistant-like. Now, I first heard of this report from a psychology podcast that I heard. Now, and I guess that report has done some research. There's been some deep diving, and that's the findings that they've come up with. But ultimately, when we go looking for things and we go and dive into it, obviously there's going to be an outcome. There's going to be an outcome. I would have found it very strange if they dived into the world of AI all with female voices and didn't come up with a recommendation or an outcome against that. So, so I first heard of this report on a psychology podcast that I listened to, and at that time I checked on my iPhone and I saw that I could change Siri to a male Australian voice. So I did. Not because I was taken by the report, but because it would be something different. Because part of the podcast that I listened to talked about gender neutrality and what does that sound like in a voice. And there is a gender neutral assistant online. I just can't think of the name at the moment, but there is a voice for gender neutrality. So the whole focus of the podcast was, well, if we can create a gender neutral voice, that's going to be awesome. So in the meantime, I said, I'm going to be a little bit different. I'm going to change my Siri from the norm and I'm going to make it an Australian male. So when I was asked about this in the workshop, why is my Siri male? I shared the research that I'd heard about. And it was a female group, and I almost got a round of applause. And I only shared the research, and I understand. Oh, and there he is again. So I only shared the research. So ultimately, they took a bit of a different slant, and then when I sort of corrected them and said, look, I just changed it to be something different. So, and then we had a little bit of fun with everyone going through the new Siri aspects and looked at British voices and British male voices, and I think there's an Italian voice on there now, and they were having all a little bit of fun. I've got no doubt some of them have now changed the voice that they have behind their AI assistant. But here's the thing. People take on board what they want to believe, what they perceive in the world to be. Now, I'm sure that within that group, and it was a great group. They're a great team. They work well together. I'm sure within that group that their immediate first thought was, "You beauty, Tony," seeing the what's the word I'm looking for? Seeing the struggle, seeing the struggle and joining the struggle in some way, shape or form. But I'm also very confident that if my male Siri voice came out in other circles, that I could be labelled a male sex chauvinistic pig. You know, why would you have a male voice? Do you want to be surrounded by male voices all the time? And then I'm almost certainly convinced that if I was having a beer at the pub with my mates and the male voice came out, that they'd probably look at me a little bit differently as well and have a different perception. Because it's all the way we perceive it. So the workshop group saw it, that I understood the struggle, and that I didn't want my Siri to be seen as subservient, so I made that subservient voice male. In another world, I'd be seen as a male chauvinistic pig, and yet in another world, I would probably have another thought. There'd probably be another thought process. So it's all in the eye of the beholder. It's all how we see the world. It's everything according to the world is everything according to our biases, according to our perceptions. Now, I don't know if Siri was a product of a group of engineering blokes forcing upon us gender stereotypes. I don't know. Much as I don't know that Siri's voice was chosen due to the nurturing, attentive aspects of the female voice. I just don't know. And in all honesty, it's not really important to me because I just wanted to be different. But you see, here's the thing. Our world is filled with amazingly unique people. And we share some characteristics, just as some of our characteristics and our thoughts are purely, uniquely us. We are humans, after all. We are humans. And if we respect that, and if we treat everyone with kindness, your world, if you treat everyone with kindness, don't judge, don't put people in a box, don't label, treat them as the human being that they deserve to be, your world will be a much better place to live in. And I think that's worth writing about. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Coach Curl podcast. Don't forget, we've got, at the moment, we've got a 30-day growth mindset challenge happening in the Coach Curl Academy online in our Facebook group. So get onto Facebook, do a search for Coach Curl Academy. You'll also see the link in the description. Please come along and join. We're on day 5. It's fantastic. Podcast is proudly supported by Think and Grow Business, strengthening leadership, mindset, and business. Go check them out. Sign up for contact us for a free 30-minute discovery call on how we can help improve your people and your business and unlock that potential. And you can do that at thinkandgrowbusiness.com.au. Don't forget, I have written a book. It's called Seriously Simple Stuff to Get You Unstuck. Check it out at our authors page at tonycurl.com.au. 20% of every book sold supports the wonderful people at Carter's Cause. So don't forget the golden rule. You know what it is. Just don't be an arsehole, and I'll see you next time.